Jacey's Kingdom, Episode 2, A Proposal. George Cunningham awoke in a darkened room. For a few panicking moments he failed to place his surroundings, then recognised the dim interior of his tiny upstairs porcelain flat. He had just got home from work. Must have dozed off. The feeling of disconnection left him as he glanced across at the clock. Nearly 7:30 already. Now he was running late. Damn. It had been a bad enough day already. The meeting with Rest Assured Assurance had been a cock-up. He spotted RAA's Lego-starred main office a split second too late for the exit. By the time he dodged in and out of the mid-morning traffic, swerved the Austin Montego around an annoyingly distant roundabout and zoomed back again, it was exactly 11 o'clock. Pity then that his meeting with Mr. Brown of Office Supplies had actually been for 10:45. His boss on the sales team at Xenon Portable Photocopiers had always told him the product would automatically sell itself, that all he had to do was turn up on time and demonstrate the damn thing. The on-time bit was quite important here. But Mr. Brown, when George finally tracked him down inside the rabbit warren of desks and partitions that made up Rest Assured Assurances, appeared unimpressed. Partly because of George's lax attitude to timekeeping, but mostly because he wasn't Mr. Brown. George Cunningham from Xenon. I'm Mr. Chalmers. He looked pointedly at his watch. You're late. So sorry to keep you waiting, Mr. Chalmers. Bloody ringrat. He shook Mr. Chalmers' hand enthusiastically, lightened the mood. Try and joke for Christ's sake. I suppose you'd better call me the late Mr. Cunningham now. Sorry. The man stared at him as if George had just farted. The late Mr. Cunningham? The hand was withdrawn from George's eager grasp. You're probably wondering why you're seeing me instead of Mr. Brown today. Well, yes, actually, Mr. Brown died of a heart attack yesterday. Oh. Quite. We can just cut out the jokes and get started. Surprisingly, he didn't get the sale. Another bad day and another bad year, the RAA debacle could now take its rightful place in the long list of poor performances that had seen George plummet to the relegation places of the company's Brighton HQ sales chart. One more like that and he'd be for the chop. Again. That was for another day though, and tonight was all about Dorothy. Dorothy and his long put off proposal. He decided it was now or never before things got any worse. He was ready, more or less, to finally make a commitment. Funny word, commitment, had the ring of the prison about it somehow. Anyway, he thought, as he hauled himself into the shower, onward and upward. When George finally picked Dorothy up from her flat in Withdean, he'd been expecting her exasperated late again look, but as she slid in beside him, all he got was a random stare straight in front, as if her mind was somewhere else. By the time they'd reached the little village high up on the cliffs outside Eastbourne, it was almost dusk. Set into a gentle bowl in the hillside with the pub restaurant facing the village green, it looked serenely welcoming after the Brighton rush hour traffic. Most of the place seemed deserted. A few couples walked arm in arm on the green, whilst a couple of kids kicked the ball around, but it was the pub itself that was the centre of attention. Outside, a large and noisy group of young people in t-shirts and summer blouses sat around looking pretty happy with themselves. By the time George and Dorothy sat down at the table he'd booked, the carefully planned proposal was already in his head, while the little silver box in his jacket pocket, wrapped in silver paper and tied with a silver bow, he felt that to make sure it was still there. She directed another random stare in the general direction of the bar. What's the matter? Matter? Nothing's the matter, she replied. It's just that you seem a bit preoccupied this evening. I'm okay, really. Sorry. About the RAA thing today, that would have been a big deal, wouldn't it? He gave a gallant shrug. Worst things happen at sea. Shall we order then? She nodded, looking away again as George sought to catch the waitress's eye. This was how it had been between them. They never really talked much about anything, but a lot seemed to go unsaid. They'd always got on well enough, though, apart from his habitual lateness. Perhaps the emotional side of things could have been, well, more there. The ring in his pocket would start to put that right. He was pretty sure it would, anyway. He waved over one of the bored-looking waitresses. "I will order now, please. I'll have the prawn cocktail and my partner." As he said the word partner, he noticed a small shiver pass through Dorothy. Sorry, are you sitting in the draft? What? No, I'm fine. She glanced quickly at the menu. I'll have the avocado, please. Thank you, madam, the girl replied, and turned to George. Can I take your jacket, sir? Take it? He was still looking at Dorothy. Hang it up for you, sir. Yes, no thanks. Are you okay? Dorothy asked after the girl left. Yes, I'm fine. Well, more than fine, actually. Dorothy. He reached across the table to take her hands in his. There's something I need to ask you. Wait. She put her finger quickly to his lips. There's something I want to tell you first. He looked into her eyes for explanation. Their expression was unreadable, but there was sadness in them. He realised now that it had been there all evening. His mind did a quick flip of worry. All right, go on then. George, I'm seeing someone else. I have been for the past 2 months. He swallowed. Suddenly his mouth felt very dry. Go on then, he repeated robotically. His name's Colin Walker, the guy I told you I met at my old law school reunion last year. I showed you his picture in the yearbook, and you said his eyes were too close together, or something. Remember? She tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. He moved down to Brighton a short while ago, and we got in touch again. He's starting a small practice down here. One thing led to another, and he asked me to join him. We've been seeing quite a lot of each other, actually, and then last week, she looked away. I didn't tell you everything before. We used to have a thing going on when we were students, and I think maybe he never quite got over it. Neither did you, by the sound of it. I'm sorry, George. Dorothy seemed to be finding a small area of the carpet around her feet particularly fascinating. Me too. He looked around at the rest of the diners, but no one seemed to have noticed that the world had suddenly come crashing down. Just him then. It felt pointless staying for the meal now, and he could see Dorothy wanted to be anywhere but there right at the moment. His head felt light, his arms frozen. He wanted to reach out and touch her face, but he couldn't move. It's okay, Dorothy. He took a deep breath. I'm glad you told me. Perfect timing, really. Come on, you don't want to be here. Let's just go home. She said nothing, but nodded. At the bar, he explained that something important had come up, while regretfully they had to leave. He paid for the starters while Dorothy lingered in the doorway, then took her arm and guided her out to the car park. You wanted to ask me something? She told him, as if just remembering when he opened the car door. I'm sorry, was it important? No, it wasn't important. Just rubbish. The usual sort of crap I come out with. Forget it. She nodded again and slid awkwardly into her seat. When he got in next to her, Dorothy's eyes were again staring straight ahead through the windscreen. This time he identified the expression in them all too easily. It was one of relief. They turned out of a little hamlet in the gathering darkness, and they began the now far too long drive back to Brighton along the narrowly winding route. On their right was a dusky series of meadows with a few cows silhouetted against the silvery skyline. On their left, a low bank of grass rising a few feet more to the cliff tops. The unlit road twisted unpredictably before him in a slowly vanishing blur. His own voice broke the silence. You could have told me before, though. The numbing shock had begun to ebb away, to be replaced by, what? Emptiness? A vacuum? Anger at himself? Or at her? Dorothy didn't reply, but he sensed her head framed in the car's side window give a slight reactive shake. It was too dark to see her face properly, but he saw that her cheek was glistening in the last rays of the light. It's me, isn't it? I'm a bit of a tosser, really. You can tell me that now. This time the shake was more pronounced. It's not you, it's me. Oh no, not that, he thought. You're not getting away with that old line. I don't mind, really. I mean, you know, spit it out. It's probably your last chance to do so. Please, George, don't. Her voice sounded fragile, like impossibly thin glass that might shatter into a million pieces at the slightest reverberation. Still he persisted. So you always loved him deep down. I was just a booby prize. Isn't that right? Yes, it was definitely anger he felt. Anger at the whole damn world. Isn't that right? He repeated. No, I loved you. She was crying now, all right. He could hear the choked off sobs in her words, but not as much as... George, look out! Two boys stood framed in the car's headlights, poised like figures in a tableau. In a snap second, George's mind registered every detail. One wore a muddy jumper and shorts and held a football under his arm. His face dirty and hair spiky, the eyes wide and scared, as if caught out doing something he shouldn't. The other kid was smaller, but with similar features, as if the two might be brothers. The older boy had his arm protectively around the other. George would hit them both in the next few seconds. He swung the wheel violently to the left without thinking, without time for the consequences of his actions to filter through to his brain. All he knew was that he had somehow managed to miss them. There was a bump and a lurch beneath them. Then the sound of the engine racing as the tyres span freely. The sea's moonlit horizon peered in the windscreen, then shot upwards as the vehicle dipped down into the blackness below. There was nothing after that but Dorothy's screams.